You're an early stage investor. You're at the forefront of this evolution of our world. From your vantage point, knowing what you know, seeing what you see every single day, what do you see is the future of work?
Part of it is I'm an eternal optimist at heart.
That's why I love you.
A part of me is so excited and optimistic about what this new magical superpower will bring to education, to work, to healthcare, to medicine, and everything in between. And also realize that a lot of things won't be right the first time.
When you think about education, like what is the role of the teacher? What's the role of the educator? What is teaching and learning going to look like in 5 to 10 years? Or what do you think it should look like?
The skills that I hope that our kids will have are around resilience, grit, perseverance, critical thinking, empathy, teamwork, leadership, public speaking. Those are all things that I hope are important now. And I think those things will continue to be important in a world where AI is more apparent.
As I believe that it's so critically important that we're supporting educators and moving through this fast, rapidly transforming transitions and ensuring that we're developing their own capacities to thrive in their roles, and then also developing students' capacities to thrive.
My hope is that in the same way that we encourage students to lean in with curiosity, my hope is that adults, educators, administrators, parents also lean in with curiosity, the same type of curiosity that they are trying to instill in their kids.
The world knows you as Yen, but I know you as Pokey, and I'm going to go with that one here. I am so excited to have you on this podcast because literally you're my favorite human being on this entire planet. I'll never forget when we met when we were 14 years old. It was the day before the first day of Monte Vista High School, picture day. I knew everyone from our middle school. We all went to the same high school. And then I saw you in the rally court. And I was like, who is this new guy? I mean, you're 4'2". You clearly stood out to me, and I knew that you were new. And I said,
I was probably 3'8".
You're probably 3 foot
back then.
So true. Yeah. And I remember being like, he probably needs a friend. So I went up to you and said, hi, I'm Ilana. What's your name? Will you be my friend? You remember that?
Yeah.
And then you became president of the freshman class. We ran student government together in high school, became best friends, visited each other. When I was at Berkeley, you were at Penn. And then I remember when I started Breathe for Change, you were the first person I called. Do you remember that?
And I flew to Madison
2 days later.
It was MLK weekend 2015.
And it was like negative 30 degrees.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have this vision for how I want to transform education. And then you're like, let's write a business plan. And we won the business school competition at UW.
Got that big check.
Got that big check. And
you still have it? Or where is it? Is it
I don't know where that is.
In your Madison apartment somewhere?
I have no idea, but I'm sure it's like probably in one of the storage units somewhere.
That'd be good memorabilia.
We got to get that out.
Yeah.
And then eventually I somehow convinced you a few years in to help us grow the movement, and you became our chief business officer. And then I realized, you know what, I'd rather have you as my husband. And now we're married with 2 beautiful young girls, our favorite humans on the planet, and Zoe and Aaliyah. And, you know, I'm so excited for this conversation because you are like the most interesting human being I've ever met. And, you know, the purpose of education is really to prepare our kids for their careers and for life. And with the advent of AI and the rapid change that we're seeing in our world every single day, I feel like education is just not keeping up. It's not adapting as quickly as AI is evolving. And so I'm just so curious, you know, you're an early stage investor. You're at the forefront of this evolution of our world. And from your vantage point, knowing what you know, seeing what you see every single day, Like, what do you see is the future of work that we're going to be living into? Like that, our families and our schools might not be able to have access to knowing.
Yeah.
What's the future, Yen?
Well, first off, super excited. It's been a long time coming, so this will be
I've
fun.
been talking about having you on my podcast
Yeah.
forever.
I'd say first, I mean, part of it is I'm an eternal optimist at heart.
Hmm.
So
That's why I love you.
a part of me is so excited and optimistic about what this new magical superpower will bring to education, to work, to healthcare, to medicine, and everything in between. And also realize that in this big change, won't get right. A lot of things won't be right the first time,
Hmm.
and there'll be a lot of adjustment that needs to happen, and it'll feel bumpy along the way. And with any big technological shift, whether it was industrial revolution or the internet, there's going to be bumps and patches. But I think overall, on the other side of it,
Hmm.
I would like to say that things are better now in 2026 than they were in 1744. And I hope that will continue to be the case, that things in 2046 will be better than 2026. But it's important to get this transition right, and it's important to be intentional about how we do this transition. But underlying it all is just a lot of optimism around what this can do to better improve work, education, and hopefully allow us to be even spend more time with our loved ones.
Hmm. Get a little more tactical, like about like 5, 10 years from
Hmm.
now. I hear people talking every day like these jobs are going to go away and we need to train people to do
Yeah,
different things and AI is taking over,
yeah,
X, Y, and Z.
yeah.
Like when you think about education, like what is the role of the teacher? What's the role of the educator? What is teaching and learning going to look like in 5 to 10 years? Or what do you think it should look like?
Yeah, I think very much the skills that I hope that our kids will have are around resilience, grit, perseverance, critical thinking, empathy, teamwork, leadership, public speaking. Those are all things that I hope are important now, and I think those things will be continue to be important in a world where AI is more apparent. I don't know the exact role that educators will play in that, but my hope is that educators are at the forefront in being the guide, being the facilitator, being the Sherpa, if you will, in helping navigate our students, our kids through this transition.
Well, that's why, I do what I do every
Yeah.
single day is because I believe that it's so critically important
Yeah.
that we're supporting educators and moving through this fast, rapidly transforming transition, so to speak, in the world and ensuring that we're developing their own capacities to thrive in their roles and then also developing students' capacities to ensure that they're strengthening the competencies and the characteristics and the qualities that are
Yeah.
gonna set them up to thrive, and I'm not
Yeah.
talking about thriving in 95 when you and
Yeah.
I, you know, were growing up. I'm talking about in, like, 2026 and
Yeah.
2030 and 2040, like, what is the world going to look like? And I think what I keep coming back to is that yes, like the cognitive skills that we once had to learn in school, uh, around like, well, right now, even still, rote memorization, and we have to like prepare for these tests. A lot of the skills that we once learned, AI can replace a lot of that, but the skills that you talked about, the critical thinking, that becomes even more important with more information coming our way and at our fingertips. How do we as human beings critically analyze that, make
Hmm.
meaning of it, be able to use it to our advantage to then move in the direction we want to go? And we have to teach kids these
Yeah.
kinds of skills as the technology gets smarter.
Yeah.
Because what are we doing with that?
And my hope is that in the same way that we encourage students to lean in with curiosity, My hope is that adults, educators, administrators, parents also lean in with curiosity, the same type of curiosity that they are trying to instill in their kids,
Mhm.
in their students. There's this new thing that's here, AI, and it'll continue to evolve. How can we as teachers, educators, administrators, parents get curious about how to best integrate it, how to best incorporate it? When is it play more a main character role? When is it more of a side character role? When is it not even a part of the picture?
Mhm.
Yeah, so in the same way that students learn new things every single day, this is another version of a new thing that both students and teachers and administrators are kind of learning together on.
Totally. You're reminding me of when you came home one day with this, like, new technology. It was like that yellow, what,
Yeah.
or the orange, what,
Walkie-talkie?
the walkie-talkie, and obviously, you're, like, at the forefront of this work. I'm an educator by training and an educator through and through, and so I'm a little more resistant than you are to this, clearly. And I remember you came home, you're like, "This walkie-talkie, like, we can have Aaliyah use it, and it's an AI tool that she can talk into, and she can just have these conversations. It's developmentally appropriate." And I was like, "I don't want Aaliyah to have access to this AI tool. She's 4 years old." And then you're like, "Well, why don't you just get curious about it, Ilana?" And I
Yeah.
remember we, like, had a little thing. And then finally, I think I went on a Breathe for Change retreat, came home, and Aaliyah was using the tool. Good job. You knew
Yeah.
when to integrate it. And I was blown away. She's having this conversation with a
Yeah.
walkie-talkies, like, she's, like, asking all these questions, learning
Yeah.
about what was she learning
She
about?
asked, she was learning about time zones in preschool,
Uh-huh.
and that obviously certain parts of the earth see the sun at different points in time.
Yeah.
And then she was asking, what time is it on the moon or in space?
Like, that's such a good
So
question,
that's a great
Aaliyah.
question.
But she was having this cool
Yeah.
conversation with an AI, and I was watching her, like, feel, like, so empowered in, like, her
Yeah.
questioning and then learning all this new
Yeah.
information, and it really did, that moment shifted
Mm.
my perspective a little bit. I feel like I became more open to the power
Yeah.
of these tools specifically for kids, because I had already figured out ChatGPT, and I was like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
there's so much here to support me in my role and
Yeah.
in my thinking as a thought partner." But I think the resistance around kids' use of AI was
Yeah.
really real for me. But now I am a little bit more intrigued because I see how personalized the
Yeah.
technology can be for different types of learners. And I think that there's so much possibility there.
Totally.
But there's also a lot of potential threat and concern if we don't use and leverage the
Totally.
technology. So, how do you think about that?
Yeah. As with any new thing or technology or invention, when used in the wrong way, it obviously can have bad consequences.
Mhm,
It's not a perfect analogy, but like cars, for example. Unfortunately, a lot of people die in cars and car accidents every single year,
mhm,
unfortunately. But I don't think anyone is saying, hey, we should ban cars or we should prevent people from using cars.
mhm.
We have a licensing process to get a license to drive. We have rules around what you can and cannot do while driving. And if you cross these boundaries, you'll lose your ability to drive. And obviously, it's not a perfect analogy. And I think the regulatory landscape is still trying to figure itself out around AI
Mhm,
and safety and all that. I think it's important to get the regulatory and safety piece right, but also realize that it has a lot of potential to do a lot of great good. And so, how can we hold both things at the same time? I think it would be short sighted to say that there's no potential harm or no potential negative implications, in the same way that I think it would be short sighted to think that we should just not use it at all because it has potential negative implications. And so, in the same way that we hope our kids can hold two truths at the same time and have a nuanced understanding of the pros and cons of an argument, a debate, I would hope that parents, teachers, educators, administrators could do the same thing about AI. That
mhm.
it's not uniformly good, not uniformly bad, but it's just a thing that is here, and let's figure out how best to incorporate, integrate it at the right points in time.
Well, it's really interesting because obviously over the last even year, people's use of AI has exponentially increased.
Yeah.
And among teachers, first and foremost, the teaching profession, it's the most burnt out profession in the United States of America, right? Educators are overworked, underpaid, the most extraordinary people on
Yeah.
the planet. And of course they're stressed. Like they're on average working 10 plus hours more than their contract, right? More than they're even getting paid for. And what the research has recently shown, which I have found to be so interesting, is that educators who are using AI are seeing a decrease in hours spent on work by 6 hours a week. That's a
That's
lot.
great. That's 6 hours they can be
That's
spending
with their
friends and family,
family.
getting rejuvenated so that they can show up more fully for themselves, for their students, for their friends.
Totally. And what's really interesting is that 32% are using AI on a weekly basis, and 40% aren't using it at all. So even though we're seeing like this, almost like it's an efficiency, like it's helping probably them write lesson plans and create assessments and maybe even support some grading or there's a bunch of different things that AI can be
Yeah.
used for. Like teachers can use it to help create really supportive worksheets
Yeah.
or personalized learning in different ways. And we can go deeper in this
Yeah.
in a moment. But like they're 40% of teachers haven't touched that, which means they're not getting the benefit of like a reduction in
Yeah.
their stress levels, so to speak, or their workload that
Yeah.
we're seeing in those that have adopted it. But only a third have even started to scratch the surface of what's possible in education and for their roles. And I'm curious, like, what you think about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. My hope is that everyone will be exposed and have an intentional choice of how to incorporate it. I get curious around the percentage of people who aren't using it. Why is that the case?
Mhm.
It could be any number of like with any new technology, there's just an adoption cycle that happens at different times. Maybe they're not exposed to it. Maybe there's a misperception around it. Maybe it's too expensive. And I think there's a lot of work that a lot of these AI companies can do. And they're already doing a lot of great work around making a free access, a free tier available to schools and nonprofits and even the broader public. But how can they even extend more usage and more
Mhm.
availability? Um, so I think there's real work that can be done there. And for the folks who are exposed to AI but then are intentionally not using it, I'd want to know why. And maybe there's something that I don't know about their specific situation and use case that makes it perfectly legitimate why they wouldn't use it. Maybe it's not in the right language, or maybe for at first a lot of AI was only chat based and there wasn't a good voice mode. And so maybe someone who was bad at typing or didn't have like the ability to type, it was inaccessible.
Mhm.
But then over time, they added voice mode, and then so now AI is even more accessible.
Mhm.
So I would get curious to what extent is it just not something that they're able to use, or to what extent do they have some open questions on how to use it?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with perception. Like a
Yeah,
recent study on teachers showed that 70% of teachers perceive or think or feel that students' use of AI is weakening the skills that they actually need to thrive. And
hmm,
so, whether or not that's true,
yeah,
it's still the fact that in this study, 70% of educators feel like students using these tools is going to weaken the actual skills that they need to thrive in
yeah,
life. That's a huge
yeah.
issue, like when it comes to adoption, so to speak. And I'm curious, like, how you're thinking about that when you hear that perception, so to speak.
Embedded in that question is some assumption of what skills are important.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, you see where the world is headed so
Yeah,
closely. You're talking to founders who are gonna create the newest organizations, the newest technologies. They're gonna design what the world's gonna look like.
Yeah.
What skills do you think are most important?
A lot of the same skills that we hope to inculcate in our kids now in terms of teamwork, resilience, grit, perseverance, critical thinking, leadership, teamwork. Those are still, I believe, it's still going to be super important going forward.
Mhm,
And now there's AI and technology that, in a lot of ways, just amplifies those actions in all directions.
mhm,
And so, yes, like, I mean, maybe taking something specifically, um, AI is really good at generating output of things, words, images, content. And so I would argue that, yes, AI can read a ton of content for you. But I would argue that now is even more important to know how to read because the barrier to produce content for content to be in front of you is so low
mhm.
that it's even more important to be able to read and decide what's true and what's not true, what's true for you, in what way, if things are different, would it be different for you? And so I believe that the skills around critical thinking and reasoning are even more important going forward.
Mm, get more tangible with me around that, like, when you say that reading and writing are more important than ever before, which I totally agree with.
Yeah.
I'm a kindergarten teacher, I'm a first grade teacher, I'm teaching the foundations of literacy to my students.
Yeah.
Am I doing it the good old-fashioned way, like how we learned in school, where it's like you're getting out the pen and the paper and you're writing your letters, you're doing the phonics, the sounds, and then you're putting sentences together and eventually learning how to do, an open, the first sentence of a paragraph and the paragraph and then the essay. Like, are we doing that with the use of technology and AI as like a thought partner, or are we literally learning the basics without it? And then once that's mastered, then we have the ability to integrate AI and then, critically analyze whatever information is coming through. Like, I'm just like trying to
Mm.
get
Yeah,
tactical as a teacher
and I'm
here.
not a pedagogical expert or teacher in knowing how to read, helping kids read or write in any way. But my sense is that reading is going to be super important. And at least in how I learn, what's made me a good reader is someone is learning how to write and knowing when you read something, what are the implicit assumptions in the thing that I'm reading? What's the supporting evidence to the topic sentence? What's the implication, like the significance of this all? And so, if I believe reading is important, and I believe in order to be a good reader, you need to be a good writer.
Mhm,
And then I just break that down to its component parts. And then I think it's important to be able to. An essay is just a collection of paragraphs, and a paragraph is just a collection of sentences. And a sentence is just a collection of words, and a word is just a collection of letters. And so I think those foundational skills of putting letters to make words, words to make sentences, sentences to make paragraphs, paragraphs to make essays are still going to be fundamentally important for kids to learn. And they should absolutely use AI to help get feedback on their writing.
mhm,
If something isn't making sense, the teacher, and depending on how young or old the student is, the student should absolutely be using AI on if a concept isn't making sense, seeing if the AI can help make it make sense for the student.
mhm,
Because there's 100 reasons why a concept might not be landing.
mhm,
And a great teacher will be able to figure out like what's that missing gap. But for any number of reasons, any teacher, any parent might not be able to see what that missing gap is. But if AI has seen this pattern across millions of kids, then there's a chance that the computer, the AI, can see what the missing linkage is, and then make that connection. And again, there's a balance because you don't want to. I don't think you want to give the answer right away.
right.
In the same way that I guess a good mental model that and I'm still thinking through this in real time, but a good mental model is AI has just given everyone a personalized, always on tutor.
Mhm.
And in the same way that if you had a tutor, like a teacher tutor, I would hope that the teacher tutor wouldn't just give you the answers to something at the first moment of our kid not understanding the thing. The AI or the teacher tutor would try to progressively reveal the answer or
Mm.
give clues. And so that
So that the human can
so the
come to
human
the answer
can, yeah,
themselves.
and in this process also build up some skills around it's uncomfortable not knowing an answer. And then the more you're able to sit in that discomfort, like the better you are able to sit in discomfort in future situations.
And the truth is that whether or not as educators we believe like on an ethical level
Yeah.
that AI should or shouldn't be in the classroom,
Yeah.
it's being brought into the classroom. I mean, there was a recent study on students' use of AI over the last year, and it showed that over the course of 7 months, it jumped from 48% of students were using AI on homework assignments to 62% in just 7
Uh,
months. And so that doesn't mean that educators are explicitly inviting AI into their
Yeah.
instruction or into the assignment, so to speak, but students have access to it, and we know how it was. We came out when, we were high schoolers when Facebook came out. We were
Yeah.
we were all over that,
Yeah.
right? And that's how our young students are
Yeah.
having, once they're exposed to these AI tools, they're gonna be so much faster
Yeah.
at adopting it than us as adults. And so, even with that, with students using it no matter what, whether or not we like it, what I also find super interesting is that 80% of students are saying that their teachers are not teaching them how to use AI. And so students are using it, right? 62%, and this was at the end of 2025. So I would bet that that number has increased a lot since, because we're now, you know, almost 6 months into
Which number has increased?
the percentage of students using AI in
Yeah.
homework assignments.
Yeah.
So at December, it was 62%.
Yeah.
7 months before that, it was 48%. So now I'm
Yeah.
sure it's like 70s or 80s because of the rapid
Yeah.
adoption.
And hopefully the other number is going up too.
Yeah.
That more teachers are also.
But even the fact that in December of 2025, 80% of students said teachers are not integrating this into their teaching.
Mhm.
They're not teaching me how to use it. That means that our students are learning how to use it on their own outside of like the pedagogical context.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, gosh, what would it look like if we as educators were taught how to more explicitly integrate it in where it's so helpful,
Yeah.
and then create really clear parameters around,
Yeah.
no, it doesn't belong here. This is, about cultivating human connection. This
Yeah.
is where we're, you know, deepening our critical thinking skills and
Yeah.
conversation. This is where we're learning how to present the information that we're learning. But this is where you can, differentiate and personalize and scaffold more effectively. Or this
Yeah.
is where you can, leverage this as a tool to research in this
Yeah.
research, project I'm assigning you to. It's so interesting to think about what that future might look
Yeah.
like if there was more explicit integration within education. But what that also means is more time for like when it's not there, like creating more clarity
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
educators.
I think I go back again, just thinking about it recently for the first time, the mental model around if every teacher had a crew of
I
personalized
love that.
like teacher assistants, in what way would they deploy those teacher assistants in the classroom to better help their students learn? And in the same way that the teacher wouldn't have the teacher assistant immediately give the answer to their students, they would want to encourage the teacher assistants to help the kid reason through the problem. And at some point, the student's going to get stuck at some point. And it would absolutely make sense for the teacher assistant to then progressively help the student. And so my hope is that both the companies who are building AI for students and technology consider this, but then also the teachers who are integrating AI into the classroom give the guidance so that the students use AI in a way that would be most supportive for their learning.
I mean, we talk about this all the time. I think where I get the most like, ooh, about AI is like, I don't want Ali and Zoe on screens all the time. Like, I don't want them to solely be interacting with a device and not be engaging in moments of human connection. And I believe so much of learning happens in community and debating in like real life experiences and interacting with the environment. And I think there's a balance that we need to
Yeah,
find in this next version of the world and education. But how do you think about like that part of the tension, so to
yeah,
speak, with technology and screens and where does the other human aspects come in?
yeah.
How do we keep those alive?
I think both can be true,
Mhm.
and I think screen time I feel like has a bad rap because it could quickly get munged with like bad TV, and when
And we see it with our kids. They, like, can't even turning off the TV is, like, a whole
yeah,
thing. It's like there's, like, an addictive,
yeah.
I need more, I need more." I see it with them. They're
So
2 and 4.
so to me that doesn't obviously some of those shows have very like addictive qualities to them, and again, I'm sure there are ways in which um the screen time can be bad,
Mhm.
but I don't think screen time in of itself is bad.
Right.
Um, maybe a very specific point is like I don't think anyone thinks kids flipping through an encyclopedia is bad because for some reason that just feels very like home. It feels very like grounded and homey and like good.
I'm laughing because I can totally imagine Aaliyah
Yeah,
literally just, like, sitting for 4 hours flipping
yeah.
through an encyclopedia.
But like even taking that analogy further, imagine the like a kid who needed to use encyclopedia. There's one encyclopedia in each house, and in order to look at the letter B encyclopedia, they would have to walk across the street and go to a different encyclopedia. If they wanted to learn about elephants, they would have to go to 4 houses down and look at that encyclopedia. I no, I don't think anyone would have a problem about, "Oh, they're spending too much time looking at encyclopedias," because it's not a screen,
Mhm.
but in the same way that the internet made the encyclopedia much more available, they don't have to go from house to house to look at an encyclopedia. They get to the answer faster.
Mhm.
AI just even makes it a little bit shorter.
Mhm.
I can understand why people take issue with screen time, but if I would ask like the people that do really try to double click what about screen time they have issue with, because this AI screen time is helping them surface knowledge and facts in a way that is more personalized and
Mhm.
more tangible to them. And I am hard pressed to think that that's a bad thing.
Yeah. I think you're pointing me towards, like, the hope that I feel around
Yeah.
AI, which I think especially your story resonates so deeply with me. It's like this world wasn't built for you. You
Yeah.
have achondroplasia, a form of dwarfism, you're 4'2". You had to navigate a world
Yeah.
that was not shaped
Yeah.
for your body, and there's so many people that also have physical disabilities or there's neurodivergent, challenges or superpowers, I would say. And I think about what these tools can do for democratizing education. Like, wow, kids who have difficulty focusing their attention, there's AI tools that can help personalize the learning to support their focus for students who are 3 grades behind in reading. Like, this individual tool can help them at their level read more
Mhm.
effectively. Like when there's just one teacher teaching 30 students and you're trying to teach everybody how to read at the same time, there's only so much capacity that you have to meet every individual student's
Yeah.
needs. And these tools have the potential, and I'm going to say the word potential because we have to use them effectively,
Mhm.
to personalize learning in a way that's going to actually meet each student where they're at, which is
Mhm.
what scaffolding and differentiating learning is all about.
Mhm.
And I find that hopeful. I find that exciting. I also am like, my seatbelt is locked in. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's a lot that has to go right in order for the not just the tools to be built, but for them to be implemented effectively, for educators to feel confident in utilizing them, for students to feel empowered in learning in
Mhm.
these new ways that are going to help them and their needs.
Yeah.
Like there's so much possibility there, but there's also a lot of risk, a lot of potential harm that can be caused if we're not careful about every single part of that.
Yeah, cars do a lot of damage,
Mhm,
but cars have also allowed us to get from point A to point B much faster for us to see loved ones that we otherwise wouldn't see.
mhm,
You can extend that to airplanes. Bad things happen with airplanes, but if we didn't
mhm,
have airplanes, then people wouldn't be able to see family who live across the country or live across the world.
mhm,
And so I absolutely agree that this has a great potential. And the best chance of realizing that potential is, I think, leaning in and not leaning out.
mhm.
So the my encouragement would be the people who are skeptical. You can still have those reservations,
I
but
have them.
but at least uh, lean in and see if to what extent you might be willing to update those priors on those reservations.
I mean, what I have found to be just extraordinary and mind-blowing because I've adopted AI a lot.
Mhm.
And at Breathe for Change, our whole team is utilizing it for whatever their role is, and it's so supportive for the most
Yeah,
part. It's like, it's my friend, it's my thought partner, it's my collaborator. I am still the person
yeah,
driving the show. I'm the director. I am like the creator. I have the vision of
yeah,
whether it's like writing curriculum, designing transformative experiences, whether it's creating worksheets, like I'm creating that thing.
yeah,
But AI is helping me. Like, it's, like, giving me feedback. It's drawing on the most recent research
yeah.
relevant to whatever I'm doing. It's helping me correct grammar, so
Mhm.
that I'm not making errors that I might otherwise
Yeah,
miss. And I am so much more effective and efficient at my job. Like, I'm able to
yeah,
produce so much more when I'm leveraging these tools to make curriculum
yeah,
and create lesson plans, and so I am, like, really excited for teachers
yeah,
who are so stressed, so overwhelmed. We have so many things to do as
yeah,
educators, and, like, you're literally doing the most important work of educating our kids,
yeah.
and to think that you could have a partner in crime to
Totally.
help you with that is awesome.
Yeah, and you had mentioned the teachers who use AI can get 6 hours back
Yeah, on
per
average, they're
week?
getting 6 hours back a week.
Yeah,
That's, like, literally dinner or not with your
totally.
family.
Yeah,
It's like you come home from school at 5 or 6, or you go to
yeah,
school at 6 in the morning or 7,
yeah.
right? Like, that's huge. You get another hour of sleep.
And I'll have to put in a plug for a company that I work closely with, Brisk Teaching.
Oh, yeah, you walked me through that
Yeah, Brisk
yesterday.
Teaching is an amazing company, founded by a wonderful founder, Arman, who has built this company that helps teachers be with their students more because it helps automate a lot of the workflows, a lot of the tasks that you say teachers can do, um, but then also AI can do also. And it allows the teachers to personalize the lesson plans even better. It helps the teachers deliver and scaffold the material in better ways. And so that allows the teachers to get 6 plus hours per week back with their family, with their students. So yeah, I had to shout out
Yeah,
brisk
I mean,
teaching.
I
Yeah.
think that's just, like, one of many
Totally.
examples of really remarkable tools that
Yeah.
have been built specifically in the realm of education, right? We've
Yeah.
got ChatGPT, we've got Claude, everyone's using them, but these are more targeted
Mhm.
for educators, right? Like, probably developed by educators for
Mhm.
educators, and then, and then you have what we're doing at Breathe for Change, which is, like, totally honoring, like, that work, right? The adoption of AI and these
Yeah.
tools while creating more space to focus on what actually matters in education, which is teaching these human skills
Yeah.
like you were talking about, whether it's connecting our students more deeply to their purpose, cultivating
Yeah.
creativity, right? Helping students develop emotional intelligence, right? We created our human intelligence framework at Breathe for Change. There's those 5
Yeah.
layers. And I think what the advent of AI has shown us, at least shown me, is that there has been such an overemphasis in education historically on cognitive intelligence, right? On like how to think. And it's, there's a lot of rote memorization, standardized testing, and there's lots of different forms of
Yeah.
how that's shown up. And I would argue those are skills that are, like, lower on the
Yeah.
level of,
Yeah.
like, than, critical thinking, decision making, creativity when it comes to
Yeah.
cognitive intelligence.
And I'd argue that a reason why I could imagine teaching going in that way previously is it's easier to grade
Mhm.
when there's a multiple choice test, the answer is A, B, C, or
It's
D,
like factory. In,
and
out, in,
it's
out.
it's easier to grade.
Mhm,
And there's only so many graders, and those graders only have so much time.
mhm.
But again, now with AI, I could make the argument that you would be able to have students do speeches more often as a way to practice their public speaking, and
Yes.
AI could give them feedback. Obviously, they should present in front of an audience too, and with teachers. But a teacher will only be able to listen to one speech at a time.
Yep.
But AI, every student can practice with AI and get so much better about public speaking and do it in front of the students. So I'm not saying do it in substitution for, but I think it allows the student to get so many more reps in different ways. And that's just one example of AI being able to essentially, if you were again to use the mental model of every student having their own private teacher assistant that they could put in their pocket, take them wherever they want to go, this teacher assistant would give them speech feedback at any hour of the day. But that's
Totally.
just not feasible when there's one teacher and 30 students. But it is now possible with AI.
And what you're pointing to is that actually this is exciting because we're gonna be focusing on developing the higher order skills, the higher order
Yeah.
thinking skills than we have developed in the past in our
Yeah.
students, right? Moving from rote memorization, standardization to, like, presenting skills,
Yeah.
to collaboration, to, you know, innovation, right? How do you
Yeah.
create things versus just, like, check, 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 check.
Yeah.
And I recently saw on Instagram the president of Claude, Daniela, say that she actually thinks, and she's literally a leader in one of the top AI companies in the world.
Yeah.
She thinks that human skills
Yeah.
are the most important skills to cultivate in education
Yeah.
moving forward. And I completely agree. And that's why we do what we do at Breathe for Change is like, wow, what when you have this partner in crime, this
Mm.
AI technology at your fingertips with
Mhm.
so much information, with feedback,
Mhm.
serve as a mentor, a coach, whatever it is
Yeah.
that you need, then it's really about how are we learning to communicate? How are we learning to make decisions? How are we learning to critically analyze? How
Yeah.
are we learning to really sit in the question, what do I want to be? Who do I want to be? Like,
Yeah.
what's my purpose in life? And then being able to work towards that direction.
Yeah.
And those are the elements of education beyond just the cognitive, which now AI is democratizing, right? The intelligence of our bodies, somatic intelligence,
Yeah.
emotional intelligence, our ability to feel and
Yeah.
connect, and then the relational intelligence. How do we relate to each other? Like, who do you want to hire in the
Yeah.
future? Someone who has also human skills in addition
Hmm.
to the integration of technology in their lives.
Hmm.
And then universal intelligence, like the connection to our purpose. And I feel like that's what AI democratizes is if there's so much more personalization,
Hmm.
then people can actually create the paths in their careers and their lives of what they want to do, what they
Hmm.
want to build, what they want to create.
Yeah.
So cool.
I think AI and technology unleashes the creativity in kids, in adults.
Mhm,
And if a kid has this grand vision to want to start a business, nonprofit, learn about something, then they're not limited by the fact that the library is closed at 6 p.m. on a Sunday.
mhm,
Or the fact that they don't have access to someone who they don't have the money to hire someone to program the thing
mhm.
to make it come to life because they don't know programming yet.
Yeah.
They can use AI to learn the thing or use AI to build the thing.
Mhm,
And that just seems like a uniformly good thing,
mhm.
that it just gives kids a lot more agency to live into whatever vision that they want to see for the world.
You and I think why we love each other so deeply is we're both optimists,
Yeah.
like you said in the beginning. I think I'm more resistant and critical around AI because I feel so protective of education and teaching and learning, but I also feel like there's so much possibility here, so I'm holding both. But even though we're talking about like the potential here, there is real risk and concern. And I know in a recent study, the top two emotions that K through 12 students uh, sort of self-reported around their relationship to AI
Huh.
are anger and anxiety.
Yeah.
And the bottom two were excitement and hopelessness. And so just like sitting with that. Obviously, this is just one survey in a
Yeah.
recent study, but if students are saying that, like, when they think about AI, they think, or when they think about AI,
Yeah.
they're anxious and they get a little bit angry or mad or upset versus they're excited and hopeful. Like, they're actually saying they're not. So,
Yeah.
again, this is a big survey, and I'm sure there's a
Yeah.
lot of complexity in that. But what is that telling you?
And again, I don't know to what extent these surveys or studies are even related, but if you put the two together,
Uh huh.
you also mentioned previously that only 30% of teachers, some percentage, some
20% are
20% of
teaching.
teachers are teaching it.
Hmm.
So I could see a world in which there's this new thing that came about that has a lot of potential in a lot of different directions, but the students who see their teachers as the guides, the Sherpas, are ignoring it or not intentionally teaching the students about it. I could see that. Again, I'm not blaming teachers or educators about doing it, but like, how would that second statistic look differently if more teachers were integrating it?
If it was a part of the
Yeah.
curriculum, if it was
I could see myself being nervous and angry about it if, again, like putting myself in a 12-year-old shoes and saying, hey, there's this new thing that happened. I'm really curious about it, but my teacher is either telling me not to use it or not even talking about it, but some kids are using it.
well, most kids are using it, right? The
Yeah.
statistics show that at least as of last year, it was like
Yeah.
62% of students are using it. So they're using it, but they're not explicitly taught how to use it.
Yeah. So
So
again, I'm not
that is anxiety inducing.
so it's interesting to hear
Interesting.
those statistics in juxtaposition.
Mhm.
And if you it would be different if you told me, hey, 100% of teachers are incorporating it and kids are still having anxiety about it.
Mhm.
Or I would try to look at the cross section of the statistic. Like, if there was a way to find what the students whose teachers are integrating it, what are those students feeling about AI?
Mhm.
And how does that compare with the students whose teachers aren't integrating AI into the classroom, how do they feel?
Mhm.
Again, I don't know what that would say, but that would be an interesting like double click
Yeah.
to look at,
It's more granular.
because then you would see, okay, how much of it is this AI more structurally, which I'm open to that being the case, or how much of this is because the ways in which the kid feels dissonant towards a relationship with AI.
Mhm.
So it's interesting you
Totally.
actually presented those statistics in like in juxtaposition,
Yeah.
um, because those could also feel pretty related.
Uh-huh. So I want to dig into your experience as an investor, right? You work with founders who are still in the process of even like thinking about like what's the thing I'm going to build, right? You're in, what do you call it, -1 to 0
Yeah,
territory,
minus one.
-1 to 0 territory at
Yeah.
South Park Commons, which is so cool. And I imagine that and know, because you're my husband, that you're having these incredible conversations. You're working alongside these builders who are building the future of our world as we know it.
Mhm.
And as someone who's like working, collaborating with these founders, before you even invest money in them, what are the skills that you're looking for when you're like, I'm going to just absolutely say yes to this founder? Like, what are the skills? Because I think there's so much interesting learning there about what we can apply to
Yeah.
what we should be teaching in school.
A lot of the skills and values and principles that I'd hope we we instill in our kids and in our students, whether that's clarity of thought, depth and reasoning, resilience to persist through hard up and down times, teamwork, public speaking, all the things that would be important for a company to be born into existence. And I'll admit a lot of the founders who ultimately are super successful in the company sense often felt like their education
Hmm.
system didn't serve them.
Yep.
And this happens in a lot of different directions because the reason for existence for a founder in a lot of cases is they want to bring to life, to create something that meets a need of theirs, a gap to fill in the world.
Hmm.
Uh, and a lot of the qualities that might make a good founder or that would make a good founder sometimes come at odds with what one might traditionally feel is a good student,
Hmm.
because an exceptional founder is meant to question the status quo, meant to not oblige to what could otherwise be seemingly arbitrary rules.
Hmm.
And obviously schools have to operate, there's a method to the madness, but for a lot of reasons, things at school in education, for better or for worse, can seem arbitrary, or it can feel
Hmm.
like they're not meeting the needs of that student or that founder.
Hmm.
So there's certainly a lot of overlapping skills between the values that we would hope to instill in students that ultimately show up in good founders. But then there's also a slice of founders who you talk to that would describe their educational experience in the 2000s or the 2010s in a different light,
Yep.
just because of the ways in which either they felt like they weren't sufficiently supported because there are some learning differences and they didn't feel like they had the support to like properly understand the content, or they were um, already had mastered the content and
They weren't
they weren't
challenged.
challenged.
Yeah. I
So it
mean,
goes on it goes on both sides.
well, and that's
Yeah,
why differentiating and personalizing learning
yeah,
is just so critical. And I know that our educators are already doing it themselves. And I
totally.
think that these tools just are kind of like your partner in crime that can support
Yeah,
you in the
yeah,
process. And you're just taking me right back home
yeah.
in like our living room with our kids. Aaliyah and Zoe. Aaliyah's going to kindergarten. Oh my
I
gosh,
saw
next year.
it's the book right there says the AZ of art, like the A to Z of art. I'm like,
A to
oh,
Z, Aaliyah and
Aliyah
Zoe.
Zoe, yeah,
So sweet, and the amount of like hours and hours
Yeah.
we've put in over the last 6 months thinking about like what is important for Aaliyah's education. Like,
Mhm.
what is it that matters? Like,
Mm.
what kind of school do we want to be a part of? What kind of school would we create if we
Yeah.
even had our own school? And
Yeah.
I think when I hear you talking about these founders who
Mm.
are innovative and all have different stories, backgrounds, histories that brought them to the moment of like wanting to create something new,
Yeah.
the skill sets that you're looking for are skill sets that we're looking
Yeah.
for in a school because we want our kids to develop these skills from a
Yeah.
very young age. I want my daughters to learn how to be resilient
Yeah.
in the face of challenge. I want our daughters to learn teamwork and collaboration. I want our daughters to feel so damn passionate
Yeah.
about something, anything. I don't
Yeah.
care what it is, but
Yeah.
about something that they wanna live for
Yeah.
and then to follow that purpose, and I want the school to drive that
Yeah.
for them, to, like, give them the space to find that and
Yeah.
then to help them navigate
Yeah.
towards that. Like, I don't just want them to be
Yeah.
writing worksheets. That's not education.
Yeah.
Education is in the moments between where there's, like, an embodied experience of living, connecting, creating, and
Yeah.
that's so important, and so it's so interesting to see, like, when it comes down to it, at the crux of it all,
Yeah.
education is about, like, creating the future of humanity
Yeah.
and inspiring our young ones to find what they care about,
Yeah.
to gain all the skills and competencies that they need so they can fulfill that path for
Yeah.
themselves, so they can make a better world for our
Yeah.
future.
Yeah. What that brings for me is I think all of us, adults, non-founders, students, I think there are so many moments throughout a year, a month, even a day where you can have a founding story or a founding journey.
Mhm.
And I don't mean a founding story in like the traditional company sense, but like if a student notices that another student's feet don't touch the ground, like my feet don't touch the ground here, and they notice that, oh, that kid's feet don't touch the ground, it must be uncomfortable. That's the kid noticing a gap, an opportunity, a problem in the market.
This literally happened
Yeah,
when we were setting up this
in
podcast.
the market. And there's a version of this where the classmate goes and finds a stool to then help the student
Be more
be more
comfortable.
comfortable. Or there's an opportunity for that student to then raise money so that at any point, if there are other kids whose feet don't touch the ground, those accommodations can be met. So, like every day, there's so many moments that students, adults have the opportunity to be quote unquote founders. And so it's an interesting. So I think there's an entrepreneur and a founder in all of us, even if it's not in like the traditional like founder CEO sense, but like we all have founding opportunities every single day.
I mean, that's why I created Breathe for Change. It was like, as a teacher, the gap for me is I was
Yeah,
stressed, I was overwhelmed, I was overworked, and then I saw that I was not
yeah,
alone in that. And I was like, something has to change. And I would just hope that the future of education
yeah,
creates space for each and every child to
yeah,
access their own story, to really see what is it that I,
yeah,
personally me, like, is passionate about addressing. What's that
yeah,
issue I wanna
yeah,
solve? And then to have education be just a guiding force towards helping that student fulfill their
hmm,
dreams.
hmm,
How much meaning would that bring to everybody's lives and innovation to our world? It's so cool.
yeah,
Well, this has been so fun. Y'all are getting a little insight into, like, our, after we put the girls down to bed, these are the kinds of conversations
yeah,
we have, but Thank you so much
So it's fun.
yeah, it's so fun for just being here and being willing to take, what happens inside our home onto the mic. I love you so much,
Love you
and
too.
we'll come back and have more of these
We'll continue the
conversations.
conversation afterwards.
Yeah, totally. Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.